Does anybody know, seriously, who Nick Fuentes is? D- d- does anybody know? I mean, know what he said, why he said it, whether he's anti Semitic, whether he's racist, whether he's wait, what? Who the is Nick Fuentes? Why are people bailing and leaving the Heritage Foundation? What is the matter with us? Seriously, does this make any sense to you? Let me get rid of close some of my. Should have closed some of this stuff down. Does this make any sense? Am I the only one who says I don't care who Nick Fuentes is? And here's the deal. I'm going to say something. Do you have friends of yours who have said maybe terrible things about black people? Do you have any members of your family, friends, who maybe have said some terrible things? Have you heard black people who have said terrible things about white people? People on various forms of news and the like. What exactly am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Does this make any sense to you? What difference does it make? Seriously, if somebody says something, I'm being dead serious. What is the matter with our what? Not party, but if Nick Fuentes says 5 things, 3 of them are terrible, 2 of them make sense. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? He says stuff that's spot on about sometimes Trump. Laura Loomer says things sometimes that I think make sense. I, I really want you to help me with this. Who cares? Who cares? You know who is a real twit? Are the Tate brothers. Well, there's one in particular. I despise them, but I don't lose any sleep. If you want to listen to them, go ahead. The Dave whatever Portnoy, who I think is mentally retarded. The pizza he Barstool Sports, the pizza whatever. I don't know what this guy's about. I think he's retarded. But I don't lose any sleep. If you like him, go like him. I don't care. What do I care about? Why have we become so mean-spirited about individual people? Is this because we don't know how to handle the issues? Does that make any sense to you? Is it because we don't know, because we don't have issues to handle? We talk about Laura Loomer and how many facelifts she's got and what does she look like. And same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why? Because she said whatever. So what? I want to ask some very serious questions. Some very, very, very serious questions. I want to ask you questions. I want to ask questions of you. And I want to see if this makes sense to you. The most important thing is this. Whenever I speak with you, I try not to give you the story of the day and rehash the Epstein women, the Epstein case. Aren't you Epstein now? We've been talking about this forever. We have been talking about the Epstein case forever. Now people are talking about it for the first time. What is there left to say about this? And more importantly, do you think these women are all making this up? I'm sure some must be. There are people who make up sometimes personal injury cases. But the question that I have, and maybe you can help me with, is what exactly are we, what am I supposed to say regarding the Epstein case? What about it do you not know? And more importantly, as the subject of this is, what difference does Nick Fuentes make, or Tucker Carlson, or Candace Owens? Look, I've talked about Candace Owens. I don't lose any sleep. She's not a member of Congress. She's not running for office. She's kind of interesting. but she's not the issue. So these are what I want to ask you about and discuss, and frankly ask you, when is it that we lost our sense of what's important? Seriously, when did we become so mean? When did we become so mean? Now, I know a lot of people know who Nick Fuentes is. I think Nick Fuentes has said stuff that's just great. It makes a lot of sense. He said some things that's like, well, Nick, you gotta be careful. You can't go after JD Vance's wife, and you can't say really nasty things about people and their race and their who they are. If you want to get by, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but you've got to tone that down. Maybe it's the fact that you're just a kid and you just want people to pay attention to you. Maybe that's it. I'm just saying, if you want to create the greatest audience for you, it probably behooves you not to say things that are really deliberately nasty about people. And but yet I still think, and this is the problem that I have trying to explain to people, I think people have the ability to say what it is that they don't like. See, one of the things is you've got to understand a couple of things. If you've been involved, or if you want to be involved in what's going on regarding, how do I say this, talk radio or podcasting, you're going to meet a bunch of assholes. A lot of people who are just really mean spirited. They don't really have a lot to say. Maybe they're good, maybe they're not. But that's up for you to decide. And if you don't like them, then don't watch them. Don't. But now we're having people leaving the Heritage Foundation. This is one of the august and the premier conservative think tanks around, and people are leaving because of Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, or Tucker Carlson and Israel, or Tucker Carlson and October the 7th, or Tucker Carlson and Zionism, or Tucker Carlson and whatever it is. Now, let me ask you a question. Question number one. Some people, more than not, say, I really have never seen Nick Fuentes. I don't know his name, but I'm going to listen to him now. Do you see that as being kind of problematic when people didn't know who he was, but now they're curious because of all the attention that's being paid? That kills me. That absolutely kills me. Seriously. It's one of those things that, now, as far as Nick being right about everything, that's up to you. But if he really, honest to God, expects to get by, somebody says he sounds like a shock jock. He absolutely does. You're not going to get very far with this. You understand this? You really have to understand and grasp this. He's not going to get very far with this. He's not going to get very far with this. I'm telling you. You can't go beyond, if you want to be in certain dispatches of Rumble for the rest of your life, Laura Loomer to an extent. You got to be really, you got to say everything, but tone it down a little bit. That's all. That's all. And those are the things which I find so fascinating. And these are the things which I think people really need to know and need to pay attention to. And I find very, 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 very serious. I think it's critical that we understand this. And what we need to understand is that I believe in this thing called free speech. But I also believe that I don't have to put up with bullshit from people, or I don't have to listen to people. I don't have to follow people. I don't have to. But you can say whatever you want. And you can have an absolute and again, I'm not trying to discuss what is critical or not. Here is the bottom line. And let me ask you a very simple question. And this is the issue that is the most important. And the issue is this. Let me bring up a question that he is bringing up, that Fuentes is bringing up, that Tucker is bringing up, and that others are bringing up. Nobody that I know of in regular TV land, cable. Do you believe that the United States is controlled too much by Israel? Yes or no? That's the first question, because that's what he's saying. That's what Tucker's saying. That's what everybody's saying. Do you think, and that's the first question you got to ask people, do you think that we are too much control? Okay? That makes sense to you? And people will say, okay. Next question is, what poses an immediate threat to the United States, to us? Israel or Muslim jihadist, or whatever you want to call it? Who? What do you think? And let's call it Muslim or Arab or Palestine, whatever you want to call it, versus Jewish or Israel, whatever, however you want to do it. Have you heard of a country, a city or state in the United States that has been awakened, where people have been awakened at 3 a.m. by calls to prayer from Jewish temples or synagogues? Have you heard of that? Anybody heard of that? Have you? Who poses an immediate threat? Who? And this is something that people don't want to. Oh, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about, because a lot of people, you have to ask yourself the question: what do people think? I mean, you may say to yourself, I think that there's an inordinate connection, or an inordinate press, or an inordinate whatever you want to say from AIPAC or Israel. It's like, okay. How has it affected you? How has it affected you specifically? How? That's my question. What has it done? You can say, well, there's money. Okay. Maybe it's affected the levels of free speech. Okay. What? Tell me, how has it affected you? How? How has it affected? I mean, seriously. Tell me. Do you think, and let me tell you what's happening right now. After Zoran Mamdani here in New York, things are different. Things are really, really different. Different than ways people never thought about, because now we're talking about Linda Sarsour. We're talking about a lot of people who are what you might consider to be militant jihadists. Again, I'm using terms which are really incorrect, but nonetheless are used. And a lot of people are saying for the first time, Nick Fuentes, you may have a point there regarding the influence that the Israeli lobby has had and has on American politics. But you know what? Most people would say, they don't bother me. They don't bother me at all. You're right about the money. Ukrainians don't bother me. Russia doesn't bother me. I've got to be reminded of them. But I'm seeing a lot of people, and I don't know about you, but a lot of folks are saying, we have seen more headdresses, veils, black hijabs, abaya. Have you noticed this? Question for everybody. Very, very simple question. Here's my question. And let me just bring up this question to you. Again, in a smattering of ideas. Have you noticed an absolute, demonstrable, actual, noticeable uptick in the presence of Muslim or Islamic or Islamist folks either in your town or in the country, so to speak? Have you noticed this? Anybody? Have you? This is the most important question. Ask yourself this question. Have you noticed this? Because I got to tell you something right now. In New York City and in other places too, my friend in Minneapolis, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Minnesota, there are absolutely not only more, but more of a demonstrative type of folk. Now, you have Governor Abbott, who's issuing fatwas, dare I say, against the Muslim Brotherhood for the first time. Nick speaks the truth. He is a patriot and realist. Okay. A lot of people don't like what Nick says, and I have said very clearly, if you don't like what Nick says, don't listen to him. And if you don't want people to know about Nick, don't make him the forbidden fruit. Don't tell everybody that he's really scary and don't listen to him, which makes more people say, hey, I got to listen to him. Makes sense to me, right? You understand what I'm saying? And so I think he and everybody should be able to say whatever they want. And if Nick says terrible things about Armenians, Jews, Italians, Eskimos, Inuits, so be it. It's not a good move. Doesn't help you, I think, in the long run, but so be it. It's one of those things that people have to understand. And it's a very, very simple concept. You know, we can sit here all night, and this is so boring. Well, Nick speaks the truth. So-and-so speaks the truth. Tucker speaks the truth. Ben Shapiro speaks the truth. Who cares? It's bull. I mean, who cares? That's what you think. And if you think that, that's fine. That's not the issue. The issue is, what are we supposed to do if somebody says something you don't like? What are you supposed to do? Everybody says something that somebody somewhere doesn't like. What are you supposed to do? Tell me. What are you supposed to do? This is the most important thing in the world. And what you do is, most of the time, the folks who speak about this are frankly very politically unsophisticated, have no idea really about what he's like, what the issues are. They just like the idea that he's a firebrand and like to get in there and like to kind of like scrumming up. You know, it's a big scrum. It's a big fight. It's the usual suspects. And that's kind of where we are. You've got Candace Owens, who is absolutely constantly in this sort of rage, in a state of rage. Let her say what she wants. Go ahead. But why are they going after people the right because people don't like them? Let me ask you something. What should you not be able to say in this country? Let me ask this. What is it that you should not be able to say in this country? What should you not be able to say? Tell me. Tell me that we should speak freely and discuss. Yes. I can think of nothing whatsoever that people should not be able to say. Nothing. I can think of nothing. I see no subject matter. I see no topic. I see nothing that should not be able to be discussed. Now, maybe we'll have some kind of a warning or something. I don't know about a warning. Warning brings people in. But let me ask you a question. Someone says libel. That's very good. Libel. I think the release of trade secrets. I think something that affects the safety or the national security of the country. I think makes a lot of sense. What should you not be able to speak? Who is this? What do you think? Slander. Slander, of course, is written, is spoken word. Libel is written or recorded. That makes sense. And remember, slander is not slander. Libel is not libel if it's true. Okay? But let me ask you this question. And this is the most important question in the world. Warren Ocasio says, here in San Antonio, there are lots of women wearing burqas. By the way, they're not wearing a burqa. A burqa is from Afghanistan. That is a complete coverage. You can't see anything. It's that coarse kind of you're talking about an abaya, a hijab, where the eyes might be only notice, or maybe the face is covered, but you will not see. There are no burqas in the United States. It's the wrong term. But thank you for this. But let me answer this question. And the question I have, which is the most important, is should hate speech be allowed? Should hate speech, if people believe Nick Fuentes to be speaking hate, or Candace, or whoever, or Mark Levin, or Ben Shapiro, I don't know, should we be able to stop what they are saying because they are espousing and they are dealing with hate? Should hate speech be stopped? Yes or no? It's a very simple question. What are some of the questions you want to ask? And I see we're finally getting something which is very, very good. I knew the question is, this is the most important thing. Who decides what is fake? Who decides whether it's true? And what if I hate certain people? What if I hate terrorism? Can I hate jihadis? Can I hate people who brought down or who caused 9/11? Is that possible? Is that okay? Can I hate the Yankees or the Red Sox or whoever it is? When is hate not acceptable? It's the most important thing in the world. It's the most important thing. Who determines what is hate? Hate is not in any way prohibited by law. Hate is not in any way limited or truncated by law. None. There is no such thing as hate. Hate would have to be allowed. Who determines hate speech? Exactly, Warren Ocasio. And even if it's hate, what if it's mild hate? What if you hate crew cuts? I hate white shoes. What does that mean? And what if somebody has a reason to hate? What if something is different? There are people who do not like transgendered people because they believe transgendered people are, well, might be sinful. Maybe they're committing a sin. Maybe they're dangerous. Maybe they're problematic. Maybe whatever it is. Do you understand what I'm saying? These are the points that people have to ask. So the question is, what happens? How does this thing work? How do you determine what that even means? That's the point which I think makes absolutely the most sense. So define it. Define what hate is. Define what hate is. Define it. And tell me why I shouldn't be allowed to hate. Why can't I hate? Why isn't hate provided or allowed? Does anybody know? Can anybody tell me? Does anybody have any idea? This is the most important thing in the world. How? How do you determine this? And you can also tell by a lot of people, very frankly, who are speaking right now, I don't think they've given this a lot of thought. Let me ask the next question. When should disinformation, bad information, misinformation not be allowed? Can you tell me that? When should it not be allowed? Tell me. Anybody think of that one? Anybody? Let me give you an example. There are people who say things about diet that is absolutely insane. But I think you should be able to say it, even if it's wrong. And there are people who say, you know what they're saying right now, somebody's going to get hurt from this. Somebody's going to actually be hurt by this, because there are people who are suggesting that raw meat and heavily cholesterol laden foods, which will definitely and immediately raise LDL levels, which of course are atherogenic, could precipitate and could mitigate against LPA levels. I still say you should be able to say whatever you want. You should be able to say whatever you want. When you hear somebody who says you don't need chemotherapy, just have prune juice enemas or coffee enemas. And if you think that's going to kill somebody, should they be allowed to say that? And that's the most important thing. Should they? Should they? Someone says, we cannot rule by emotion. You hate whiners. That's all you do is rule by emotion. Every single thing you feel is because of some psychological response to some emotion. That's exactly what you're doing. This is the most important. This is the part which I think somebody says Nick's super chats get hundreds of dollars every couple of minutes on his too. It's obvious people like him. Of course people like him. Of course people like him. Is that it? Is that the way I mean, that's very important. That's it? So if somebody who is your political antagonist gets double the amount, would their particular type of thought be more valid? Make the Dream says, I've arrested a non-domiciled CDL holder. He was a terrorist. No one can tell me I don't want to see these scumbags out here anymore. Is this a commercial driver's license holder? We are seeing things which are very, very, and by the way, thank you for that. We're seeing left and right. Let me ask you something. If you had to think of one subject, one topic right now, which is the most important, what is it to you? Let me ask this question, changing the subject just a minute, just a bit. What is in your mind the most important issue today, right now, that nobody's talking about? I don't mean something that's important, the most important. Life and death, existential. What would it be? What is the idea? What is the idea? What is the theme? What is the subject matter that you think is the most important right now? What is it? And most people, as you can see, when you talk to a lot of people, you realize they really don't know specifically what it is. What is it? To me, the number one issue, somebody says freedom. There is no freedom. Jobs, jobs, jobs. If there's crime, if you are not able to be safe, if you are not able to go out and enjoy the expression of freedom, you won't be able to have a job. You won't be able to do anything. Crime and law and order is the most important issue, bar none, period. And it's the first thing that is affected and tweaked by people who come to our country and want to change it. Let me tell you what we have to understand. Let me tell you something. Who is the biggest threat to this country? You know who it is? Americans, stupid people, uneducated people, brats, whiners, pains in the ass, individual people who don't really know what the hell they're talking about. People who are motivated by hate, by anger, who are just trolls. People who sit around picking their nose and eating the boogers. A bunch of just whiny nincompoops who know nothing about nothing. That's the problem. It's not the thought police that bother me. It's the thought vigilantes. The people in this country, the idiots who keep voting or who don't vote, that's the problem. That's the problem. And we have people left and right who are just miserable. You know, Americans are some of the most miserable, spoiled people there are. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They've never been threatened. They've never been in the position where they really know what it is to have an existential threat, but they go elsewhere and they love to hate and they love to drop F-bombs and they love to be just, those are the problems. Or people who just don't care. Or people who are living in a 1980s kind of a Reagan world where they don't understand what's going on. The biggest problem that we face in this country are from our fellow Americans, not from anybody else. The idiots that are here, the criminals, these sexual pedophiles, these pederasts and catamites and freaks who think it's okay for them to talk about all this nonsense about their whatever the hell that is, they believe, their genders and everything. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. Let me ask you a question. On a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate President Trump? This is the most important issue that I tell everybody. And in changing this subject just a minute, it's a very simple question. On a scale from 1 to 10, how do you think President Trump is doing? And you've got to tell me, how do you think he is doing? Anybody who says 1 or 10, you can throw those out because there's no such thing as that. What do you think? And what is it that people want? What is it that people really want? Do people really understand what what Donald Trump's about? Do they? Let me ask you this: who's going to replace Donald Trump? Anybody? Anybody know what Donald Trump? Who's going to replace Donald Trump coming up? You're going to probably say J.D. Vance. Most Americans do. Why? They have no idea. They have no idea. They literally, actually have no idea. Who poses the biggest threat to MAGA redux or whatever you want to call it? And that's simple, as I've always said. It's Gavin Newsom. But because people don't like Gavin Newsom, because they don't like him, they see terrible things about him. They joke him away. They think they can insult him away. He's not going anywhere. See, the problem that we have is most Americans don't know anything. They're uneducated. They know nothing about history. They really don't understand. They react by, I don't know. Anybody who spends an inordinate amount of time talking about either Palestine or Israel, and there are people, and you've seen them, especially on YouTube and different platforms, that's all they talk about. The only thing they talk about is Israel. That's it. Genocide, eugenics, ethnic cleansing, apartheid, and euthanasia too. That's it. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? You get up in the morning and you look around and Israel is your number one concern here. I'm not saying it's not any reason to discount it, but what does that say about somebody? There are these people, and you can say whatever you want about Nick Fuentes, but Nick Fuentes, by the way, couldn't lead himself out of a paper bag because he's a kid, but he's very smart, but he doesn't know anything. He's great at saying, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Okay, what would you like to do? That's all. And when he gets older and he knows more, he's going to be very, very dangerous. He's very smart at this. Let me ask you this question. Here is another story. This is a topic which I find fascinating, and I want you to answer this question specifically. How great do you think it was for this country to lose Charlie Kirk? It's the question which I let me rephrase this. True or false? America's already forgotten Charlie Kirk. Nobody cares about Charlie Kirk. It's over. We're done. We have the attention span of a gnat. We're moving on to something else. It's sad. He was great. He was making a tremendous impact on young people. Turning Point USA was doing great, signing up young people. But the bottom line, nobody cares because Americans don't care. Americans don't have any commitment. Americans want to sit back in their beanbag chair, wearing a wife beater, covered in Cheeto dust, and just bitch and moan and fart and scream and yell and bleat and holler and blather, and that's it. And you know it's true. What does America really care about? Honest to God, nothing. Americans don't care about anything. And you have to understand this because we are still absolutely the most spoiled people, and we don't do anything. Take anything that Tucker Carlson has ever done. Ever. Have you ever heard anybody, Tucker or this or that or Levin or whatever, ever say what to do? Ever heard of take action? Has anybody ever heard or you heard them say, call your congressman, call somebody, do something, write somebody, picket? No. And I guarantee you there is not one person watching right now who has ever written to their congressman, senator, ever. Emailed, ever. Never. I'll tell you right now, listen to what I'm saying. Not a few, not a couple, none. Americans don't do this. Do you know the number of people watching right now who've never voted or who don't vote? It'll blow your mind. But they love to complain. And they love to be sarcastic and snarky. That's great. It's the way it is. But again, they're kids. And many people are punks. And they don't understand it. They've had it so lucky. When the shit hits the fan coming up, they're not going to know what hit them. They're not going to be able to really understand what's happening. And what's even more important, here's the best part. The existential threat, and I've said this forever, and I'm going to just try again. The existential threat that affects this country more than anything else is artificial intelligence and what super intelligence is going to do. When it hits singularity, when alignment gets all screwed up, it's over. And people are saying jobs, jobs, jobs. You have no idea what is going to happen to this country. None. If you did, if you really did, look at me. If you really understood what's going to happen, you won't be able to sleep at night. You can't fathom it. You don't have the wherewithal, and I don't blame you. Why would you want to understand this? Why would you go out of your way to be able to appreciate this? You have no idea what's going to happen. And unless you've got a really important technical job or something that cannot possibly be learned, which I don't think that's even true, but maybe you're doomed. No, you're doomed. So seriously, I'm just telling you. And right now, as we speak, everybody around the world, not only Trump, but Giorgia Meloni, to the EU, to NATO, everybody's on one page. And let me tell you something right now. And I'm going to leave you with this. Do you know who the most important lobby in the world is? Not AIPAC, not Israel, not CARE or the Islamic groups. No, it's big tech. Big tech in Silicon Valley. They own everything. You saw Mohammed bin Salman the other day, right? That's good with oil. That's nothing. What you're seeing right now is beyond the imagination and the intellectual ken of most people. Let me just tell you that. So get ready, my friend. If you want to sit back and talk about Nick Fuentes, God bless you. If you want to talk about how great he is and all that, terrific. Nick Fuentes is nothing. Tucker is nothing. Trump is nothing in the long run. What is happening and what will happen in your lifetime, you will not even be able to fathom or get your hands around or your thoughts around. Believe me. So guess what? Enjoy the ride right now, because when it hits, and it will hit, you will not be able to believe how fast everything changed and as quickly. Thank you so much. And thank you for your wonderful thoughts and comments. Some of them, of course, were daft. Some were mentally retarded. Some were simian. Some were basically less than EB-cenarian. But I think it was interesting. Provide a kind of an interesting little color chart of little flitterings. It's like watching stock market. It's nice to see people's thoughts coming through, even though they're demented, devoid of any kind of substance, and for all practical purposes, worthless. Spouted by a bunch of spoiled brats who have nothing better to do. Thank you, Mark Klingerfeld. I appreciate you immensely, and to all our other friends. Anyway, stay tuned, my friends. Make sure you subscribe to Lionel Nation, and also make sure that you stay tuned, because I've got more stuff to come up later. And if I go live, I want you to know about it, and the only way for you to know about it is to subscribe and hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. All right, dear friends, have a great, great day. God bless America. I wish you the very, very best. Holidays coming up, Thanksgiving. I hope you and your family are well. We'll talk more about that. Until then, my friends, remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Dad.